Bilal, I'm going to start with you because this story, it feels so personal. There's so much to it. Can you talk a little bit about, where Sabi is in their life and what this journey, this season is going to look like, or what it's going to feel like even?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think is so beautifully kind of explored or named quite directly is in that first episode where Paul says to Sabi, I think you're guarded and it might be hard for you to trust people. And I think that pins exactly where Sabi is at the start of the season, and to me, in embracing the character, it makes a lot of sense given that I think they grew up in a household where they weren't totally able to express themselves all the time, then went to post-secondary where they kind of shrank even more because they realized, maybe electrician school isn't the place where they can actually really become themselves, which is so often a narrative for queer and trans folks. Like, you wait to get out and go into your post-secondary life to kind of, become who you were always meant to be. And so really, I think what for Sabi's arc in particular, it's just so much about stepping into yourself, like identifying who you are and how to kind of be comfortable in all of that. And I think it's, well, of course I'm biased, but I think it's really beautifully spread out over the first season, and where we meet them as somebody who's guarded, and then things shift. And it's not what I also really love is it's not overt, it's not in your face. Their journey feels really true to life and a little bit slower and a little bit more subtle. And I think sometimes that's totally valid,
Fab, for you, in terms of working with Bilal and both of you as co-creators, what was the initial concept? How did you start out, and what was the plan when you started building this story and these characters?
Bilal and I had met while we were both acting in a play at the Tarragon Theater, and we were both backstage quite a bit, and had our laptops open next to each other in the dressing room, and it sort of inevitably turned into discussions about writing, and then we started to throw ideas around. We had this whole other concept that we were sort of looking at, which I still like, by the way, Bilal. And and then the way I remember it is that I woke up one morning and I went, I think we should make a show around Bilal, and then I called Bilal. I think I even tried to convince them to call the character Bilal, and they immediately were like, let me think about it now. And and then Bilal asked me, well, why, if we're going to make a show about me, why should I do that with you? And it was a really interesting question. So then two things happened after that. I did a little sort of searching and came back and said, I'd been in a particular time in my life where I felt in a kind of, let's say, difficult transition when it came to my identity as a dad and a father and somebody who was leaving, a marriage of 15 years. And I said, it would be beautiful if we were able to make a show that was about everyone's transition, even though not everybody's transition is the same or seen the same in our world, right? And then Bilal felt that was really real, and then said, well, we only have one more thing to do, is find out who you are in the story. What's your entrance? And then we came up with the character of Paul and the father. And then the stories just fell from the sky. It was really just easy after that. It wasn't easy.
I imagine it must be difficult putting together a show like this, just because your cast is so phenomenal. Can you both talk about finding these people to play these characters, because they are an amazing group, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on what it's like working with them and even finding them.
Amanda Cordner, who plays Seven, and Alora Patnaik, who plays Ruffo, were two people that I was kind of obsessed with for a very long time, pre-TV. land Amanda was somebody who I didn't totally have a relationship but had seen her theater work and was such a dynamic and funny performer. And I would get nervous around her because I just thought she was so strong. And then Alora had been working with me on a play I wrote and was the only actor who workshopped that character through its 5-year play development journey. And so when we were talking about, who the other people are in this world, it's so lucky to be able to be like, I really hope we can get Amanda Cordner and Alora Patnaik to play these parts. And they did. They came in for a sizzle thing that we shot in the fall of 2019, and then stayed on right through and joined us in shooting the series too. And then the other actors were mostly just found through, casting. And I think what was really special about this group in particular was I could, coming to work every day on set, it really felt like there was such an investment in the story and to do it right. And people were bringing their passion and their heart and their excitement for it. And it didn't just feel like a job, and that was just nice. It was so nice to be able to create something that really resonated with again, when you look at that cast, there's lots of different ages, lots of different skin colors and genders and sexualities. And yet there was just a real kind of team effort around doing this story justice. And what a gift then to work with that,
Yeah, and I mean, I can say something. I could just make an addition as a director and just say, the vulnerability that everyone brought to the floor was really inspiring, especially when you consider literally, masks would come off before we would say action, and they were actually putting themselves, they were being vulnerable, not only sort of, spiritually, but also with their bodies, and I appreciated it very much. And they were just allowed me to be very playful with them in terms of the directing, and allowed me to bring my past as an actor, to the table. And they were just really fun to kind of like, I'd throw something at them, they'd throw something back. We just really, it was really a team that, played, and I know that sounds, but that's literally the most important thing that you do, in our work, in my opinion.
I'd agree with you. I also love the fact that the relationship with the kids is so incredible. It feels like this wonderful two-way street. Often kids in shows are represented two-dimensionally, and this doesn't feel like that. Bilal, starting with you, can you talk a bit about working with them and what did you have a vision for them before it started, and what was it like working with them?
Yeah, well, I should have also mentioned Kea Kaneshiro, who plays Violet, was also part of that sizzle, and same with Gray Powell. So those were actors who have been with us for a little bit longer than everybody else. And I think we were really lucky to find Kea, and sharp and fast. And I was like, technically, I think she's stronger than me, like in terms of her approach to kind of dialogue and text. And So yeah, it really, we were so clear about who Violet and who Henry were and what they kind of represent in that family structure, and how they both are going to go through their own transition when at the end of that first episode, and then over the next, what it means to not have your mom around one day when she was there every day before that. And I think that they, their chemistry was kind of instant. And what was so lovely was, they'd have a couple days and then they'd go away for a little bit, then come back on set. And every time they came back, it's like they grew stronger and stronger as siblings, like to the point where they were bugging each other off camera, on camera. They were doing funny accents and just, again, playing with each other and bringing that to the camera too. It was a real pleasure to work with those kids. They're really funny and really smart and sensitive too. But they liked Amanda better than they liked me, but I'll live with that. It's okay.
I mean, everybody likes Amanda better than everybody else.
Yeah, that is true too.
Fab, in terms of, I guess your working relationship with both as a co-creator, I guess my first question is, how do you both balance that? Like, what do you bring to it as a relationship for this storytelling?
What do I bring to it? Or what
I'm curious where you both draw the lines. Like, how do you decide, okay, well, this is what I bring to it. This is what I bring to it. How do you two split that?
That's a really good question. I think we're very lucky to have found each other. Because I'm going to speak for myself, Bilal, but I feel lucky because we really super respect each other's points of view. It's a very it's a very respectful relationship and also an incredibly creative one, and like passionately creative. And I don't think you get those two things together often. Often a passionate creative concept or idea doesn't get seen or heard necessarily by the other person, or you feel like you really, oh no, I want to, I really want, and that sort of friction between us has, we don't always agree, but like when we don't agree, we seem to be able to take that and turn it into an idea that we both love. And we work on it for sure. We check in on each other every step of the way. When Bilal is doing stuff that I can't be there for, they're checking with me and vice versa. And we also do the parts where the other person doesn't like doing. We're like, I hate doing that part. Can you do that? And then we're like, yeah, it's okay. So it's, I hope that answers your question. The work is really just making sure that we're checking in with each other. And so far, I feel like we've had a very sort of a similar vision of stuff.
Well, Bilal, speaking about the future, kind of what I wrap it up as is looking at the future, Sabi, and what a second season of the future could bring. Do you already have in your head kind of a vision of what that would look like, or what you hope it might be?
Yeah, I do. I think where we leave Sabi is actually, I think, in a really beautiful place of like just being on the cusp of super openness, like I think there is a transformation for them throughout the season. And so there's so many places you can go with that. But one of the things that I think is so right is for Sabi to continue to make choices as they get deeper and deeper into themselves, like really, okay, well, because again, talking about that guardedness into this place of, well, this is who I am, and now what? Like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be in relationship with or conversation with? And so I know this is a really vague answer, and I'm sorry, I don't know that I can say much more or how much, but I just know that it absolutely, what just feels so right is the journey we've started this character on. It opens itself up to a lot of stories and directions. And I think we're just going to see Sabi continue to step into themselves more and more.
Well, the last thing I'll ask is really in terms of, I mean, maybe I'm reading into this and maybe this is self-projection or something, but it feels like it's such a positive show. There's so many shows out there that have a balance of positivity and negativity and everything else. This feels like everything. There are obviously things that go wrong and things that don't go right or whatever, but it feels like there's just a very positive. It's a positive world in some ways that things are on an upward trajectory. Is that something that you both kind of envisioned in it, or is it just me reading into it, or what would you say about that?
I mean, I feel like jumping in because I feel like that is definitely a big part of Bilal's voice. And early on, I saw it and was very interested in having that wash over me as a writer, for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that Fab and I would talk about a lot was, it's about realness, like truth in this story for sure. But what if the world was just a bit gentler in the world of Sorter, a little bit warmer, like that was the feeling that we wanted to kind of come across. And I think in the later half of the season, things definitely, there's more stuff that could potentially bring the show down, but we approached it with a lightness and warmth because it just felt like I was just hungry for seeing stuff like that, given that we're in a pandemic and I don't know. And there's also the really real reality of the way trans characters have been depicted in media in the past, and to combat that in a way that felt really good for us.
Well, it's magical. Like it feels like, I mean, it's the perfect vision of Toronto in some ways. Like it feels like the kind of Toronto I want to see more of, maybe at least. So thank you both for the time. I really appreciate it. It's a beautiful show. I love everything about it. I can't wait to see the rest. I can't wait for season 2.
Thanks so much. Thanks for saying all that, Andrew.
Thank you both very much. Have a great day.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.